All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Shawn Porter has responded to James Toney, basically James Toney and Roy Jones Jr. about Errol Spence Jr. might not go past the 6th round. And Shawn Porter says there's no way that Errol Spence Jr. is getting stopped or knocked out in the 6th round. So, we are definitely going to break this down. So, let's talk about it in this video. King Jr. got another video for y'all. Please share that you like and subscribe to the channel, and also share the video to get all your latest boxing news, and be sure to hit that bell icon to always stay notified as soon as I release the news when it comes out. So let's get into this. Showtime Shawn Porter says ain't no way Errol Spence Jr. is getting knocked out in the 6th round by Terrence Crawford whatsoever. So I have to agree. I don't think Errol Spence Jr. is going to get knocked out within the 6th round unless Errol Spence Jr. miraculously, start doing stuff in the boxing ring that he shouldn't be doing, and, basically throwing punches that he shouldn't be throwing. That's the only way I can see. But other than that, he's not getting knocked out in the 6th round. And Shawn Porter also stated that he was talking about Errol Spence Jr., the situation with Roy Jones, Tarver, and all the legends responded about Errol Spence Jr. And he says that he agrees with the other Hall of Famers what they said. He says that Errol Spence Jr. is one-dimensional. Well, if Errol Spence Jr. is so one-dimensional, why did he beat you? Okay, wasn't your dad the one that says that he would rather have Errol Spence Jr. Kenny Porter rather have Errol Spence Jr. as his son than you, because your dad looked at you as a horrible boxer. You just wasn't that good. He looked at you as a disgrace. And I believe you still ain't talking to your dad today, that you got the towel thrown in because you doing all that extra stuff, jumping up and down in the ring when Terrence Crawford kept dropping you. So it was good that your dad threw the towel in my opinion, because you would have probably pulled a Mike Tyson and probably bit Terrence Crawford in your ears. So who don't know what crazy Showtime Shawn Porter be wanting to do? But we know that Shawn Porter also stated that, well, he lingering in favoring Terrence Crawford by a small margin. And he says that Terrence Crawford is going to win by 49.8% and Errol Spence Jr. is going to lose by 49.2%. So that's a very, very small margin, but he's giving Terrence Crawford a slight edge over Errol Spence Jr. And remember, Shawn Porter also stated that Errol Spence Jr. hits harder than Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, he hits hard, but it's nothing like Errol Spence Jr. We know that Shawn Porter fought both of them. He gave him a rough, tough fight. He gave both guys a rough, tough fight. But I feel like he didn't give Terrence Crawford a rough, tough fight, in my opinion. Even though Top Rank had him winning the match, he still didn't give Terrence Crawford a rough, tough fight, in my opinion. I think Shawn Porter could have just done a lot better. But remember, he was on record stating that he wanted to retire after the Errol Spence Jr. fight, after he got his ass whooped by Errol Spence Jr. and got dropped by Errol Spence Jr. and got stopped by Terrence Crawford and then retired. So we don't know what half of the time Showtime Shawn Porter be saying out his mouth. He also was on this Showtime, on his Porterway podcast, whatever the case may be, and he was basically deriding Terrence Crawford, saying, oh, Terrence Crawford, he was saying some crazy crap about, oh, Terrence Crawford, you right, look at it, you got me with that shot, man, you're very good. So he's a completely derider of Terrence Crawford. He's just another detractor that wants to see Errol Spence Jr. lose, because basically I believe Shawn Porter was always jealous of Errol Spence Jr., that Kenny Porter always wanted to have a son just like Errol Spence Jr., and Shawn Porter tried to impress his dad, but your dad's like, man, please, you ain't no boxer. And and Shawn Porter, I still think Shawn Porter is still mad to this day at Errol Spence Jr. And you guys know how Shawn Porter is. But a lot of these boxing critics, like a Roy Jones Jr., Antonio Tarver, James Toney, these guys are picking Terrence Crawford, but I guarantee you they have never seen Terrence Crawford fight any of his past fights, or basically they might have seen 1 or 2 fights, but that's it. They don't notice his ticks of Terrence Crawford. Then you got freaking Antonio, I think I know it all, Tarver. He legitimately said that his style is similar to Terrence Crawford. And I'm thinking to myself, this dude don't know boxing. your style is not similar to Terrence Crawford. And I really think Tarver has brain damage when he said that. And then you got guys like James Toney who miraculously think he knows boxing off the rip and say, oh, Terrence Crawford, it ain't going past 6. Errol ain't going past 6. Okay, James Toney, I guarantee you never watched Errol Spence Jr. a day in your life, and you're just saying what everybody's saying. And screw the bull crap when they say fighters, they know styles and know how to break stuff down miraculously. And all these fighters' prediction has been wrong. Just like Sugar Ray Leonard. Everybody thought that Sugar Ray Leonard knew how to talk boxing. No, the hell he don't. He picked Mikey Garcia over Errol Spence Jr. And he clearly got outboxed for 12 rounds straight. And Sugar Ray Leonard has not came out since then, ever since that incident. And so he changed his tune as well when he said he's picking Terrence Crawford. But since Errol Spence Jr. has stopped Daniels Ugas, he don't want to pick a winner. He just want to say the best man win. So these guys know that Errol Spence Jr. is a serious threat. And shout out to Errol Spence Jr. for taking in 120 degrees heat. I ain't gonna lie to you, I like the heat. 115, 110, 100 is my max. I ain't going out there training at 120 degrees, man. I might die out there. But you know, Errol Spence Jr. is just built different. He's a tough hombre, you know, and I hope Errol Spence Jr. prove all these detractors and these haters wrong. But guys like Shawn Porter is still haters of the day of Errol Spence Jr. But I will agree with him on one scenario, that he says that Errol Spence Jr. will not get stopped within 6 rounds. It would just have to be a blindedly punch that Errol Spence Jr. just miraculously doesn't have his defense up and get hit and get knocked out. That's the only way. But Errol Spence Jr. is a very, very smart fighter, and that's not going to happen. So with that being said, guys, Shawn Porter says that Errol Spence Jr. ain't no way he's getting knocked out in the 6th round or stopped by Terrence Crawford. These boxing pundits are wrong, but he still favored Terrence Crawford by a very small margin. So with that being said, guys, it is what it is. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. This is your boy King Jr. I'm out of here. Peace.